Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching a crisis unfold right before our eyes, and guess what? This is going to lead to a Great Depression, and this could even be the greatest depression of our lifetime. This is not a drill, this is not me being doom and gloom. We have just got some huge news and some huge announcements in the past 24 hours, and I really can't believe how bad it really is. This is something we all need to wake up about. This is something we need to pay attention and start preparing now, because where this is happening, the people there, they can no longer prepare. Things are so bad there, they no longer have time. It is too late. But we have only really weeks or months left to start preparing here in Australia and in the US as well. So everyone, what is this crisis that's happening? Why do we need to pay attention? And how can we prepare? Well, that's exactly what we're going to go over in today's video. So let's not waste any time, people. This is very important. Let's get straight into the news, the facts, and the data. Well, first things first, I'm sure you've heard of this. Russia has cut off gas supplies to Europe indefinitely, and you need to know what this is going to lead to. So Russia claims punitive economic sanctions imposed by the West are responsible for the indefinite halt to gas supplies via Europe's main pipeline. And for those of you that have been paying attention, which many of my subscribers have been, this is no surprise for us. But unfortunately for the average Joe and the average Jane that just watches mainstream media, that just watches TV, they don't really pay attention to what's going on around the world or what's going on around them. They're just stuck on their phone or stuck watching the TV. They're probably wondering, why is my gas bill going up so high? Why is my electricity bill going so high? Why is everything getting so expensive, from food to fuel? Well, this is why, everyone. And they try to tell us there'll be no consequences for us. Well, there is always consequences. And yes, while this is punishing Russia, we're all about to start feeling the pain as well. It represents the clearest indication yet that the Kremlin is seeking to force Europe to lift the economic measures in order for Moscow to turn the taps back on ahead of winter. And that's exactly right, people. It is going to be a very long, cold winter this year. Where I'm in Australia, we're already experiencing winter. It has been bitterly cold. It's been raining. It's just been cold every single day. We haven't had any warm days at all. I've had to use the gas heating a lot, and I got my gas bill recently and I nearly fell off my chair. Even here in Australia, where we have such an abundance of natural gas, even here, gas prices are skyrocketing. And I'm going to show you in a moment how, if you look at the wholesale price, the commodity prices for European gas, for UK gas, for US gas, even gas in the US is skyrocketing at a completely frightening rate. And this is leading people to make the painful decision. What do we do? Do we turn on the heat this winter, or do we put food on the table? How can we pay the rent when rent bills are skyrocketing so high? Can we afford to keep putting fuel in the car? Used car prices have skyrocketed 40-50% since 2020. So simply, we are in one of the worst cost of living crises we've ever seen. This latest move has significantly increased the risk that Europe may not get further gas flows through the Nord Stream 1 for the whole winter. Again, we need to wake up and look at the situation we are really in. Most people don't realize that these developed nations like Europe, UK, are weeks or months away from running out of gas and energy. And I'm pretty sure there was a man that tried to warn Germany to not rely on Russia for all this gas, but they just laughed at him, called him a fool, and now they're paying the consequences. Now again, you may be thinking, well, okay, how is this going to affect you, and how is this going to affect the global economy and the markets? Well, we've just got some new news recently in the last few hours that showed the shocking consequences and the aftermath of the situation. Listen to this. Europe's Lehman warning on energy prompts flurry of cash aid. Price jumps are increasing margin calls on power providers, and multiple governments are offering credit lines and loans to help. What you need to know is that the wholesale price, the commodity prices of gas in Europe and UK, they've increased by about 2,000%. I'm going to show you a chart at this moment, and when you look at this chart, this is absolutely frightening. And this proves that we are on the edge of possibly reaching hyperinflation. Now, of course, there's a lot of blame games going on right now. All the politicians are saying it's greedy energy companies, it's greedy gas companies. They're trying to take advantage of consumers and they're making record profits, which, yes, that may be true in some cases. Really, what's going on is it's been the politicians' decisions to cut investment to this industry, to call this, really bad, evil industry, and tax this industry heavily. And with the recent banks ESG movement, they're saying, look, we aren't going to provide any loans to you at all unless you start going green. Which, hey, I'm all for going green, all for renewable energy, as long as we can do it at a sustainable pace, and as long as it doesn't cause gas prices and energy prices to hyperinflate where people can't afford to pay for energy. Because look at what people are having to resort to do now. Germans are looking to firewood for energy as natural gas prices soar. So could we see like what we saw in the Great Depression, where people fled back to the country, where people fled back to farms, where people tried to live off the land because they simply couldn't get a job or they couldn't afford the cost of livings in the cities. They rented the farms, they tried to live off the land, and people resorted to stealing farmers' cattle just to survive, to try and eat. Look at this chart here of German Google searches for firewood. We can see here it's gone completely vertical. And we can see here another chart here, change in German household prices of gas and firewood. We can see here the chart, it is skyrocketing. We can see here the chart of firewood is now starting to skyrocket as well. Now you may be thinking, well look, this is just Germany. It's not going to happen here. Things are different here. No, through globalization, through the markets becoming globalized, through the economy and markets becoming more and more globalized, this is going to affect everyone. Just look how frightening these charts are. This is EU natural gas. Now, what can we see here? We can see here 2020, it started to rise, and then in 2020, it went completely parabolic. And yes, it's been volatile, but we know that the trend is up, and this is absolutely frightening. This tells me that the governments aren't going to be able to afford to put price caps on for much longer. Same thing happening in UK. We can see here it is going parabolic. And most of my viewers in the US, the same thing is happening in the US. And you're going to start to see your gas bills skyrocket, especially when winter comes. So what are some brilliant solutions the governments has come out to say what will stop this crisis? Well, of course, this problem has been caused by money printing, by creating too much inflation, because when you increase the money supply, that increases inflation. They said, well, look, we'll just throw more money at it. If we just throw more money at it, that'll fix all problems, won't it? No, we have a problem of not enough supply. And if you keep throwing money at it, people keep on using more and more energy. Well, that's going to make the problem worse. Another solution, well, we'll just put price caps on it. Again, what's that going to lead to? That's going to lead to these energy companies going bust. And that's even lesser and lesser supply. And this is what all countries have done before we saw record high inflation or even hyperinflation. They put price caps on to try to stop the price rises, but what that does is it's like pushing down on a spring. They keep pushing it down, pushing it, and pushing it down. Eventually, the spring explodes and prices start flying. And it just makes the problem even worse. This is just a short-term solution, which again, our governments are all about short-term solutions because all they care about is the next 2 years to get re-elected. Now, what this is also going to lead to is blackouts. We're seeing blackouts in some of the biggest economies in the world, in some of the richest areas like California. We're seeing blackouts. We're seeing blackouts in China. Things are getting really bad there, and this is going to become more and more frequent. Look at this. China factories are still struggling as power cuts curb output. Official manufacturing PMI still in contraction in August. Now, the unfortunate thing with energy, before this, it was just a boring topic. No one really thought about energy. People just took it for granted. They just thought, yep, we've got energy, we've got our power here, we've got our gas bill here. Nobody even thinks about it. But it's energy and gas that fuels the whole world. And when that gets shut off, the whole world will stop. Even Elon Musk has come out and said if they stopped oil and gas, civilization would cease to exist. And just think of it, if the power grid went down, if we had these blackouts more and more common, you won't be able to access your money because everything's going digitalized. This is why you need to have some cash in your wallet because these blackouts are going to be coming. And this is why it's a terrible idea to try to digitalize everything. They want a digital currency. The Federal Reserve has come out and announced they're going to do their FedNow payment in 2023. They're trying to make everything go digitalized. But again, what happens when the power grid goes down? We simply can't let this happen because the system will become even more and more fragile. Now, if it was just energy going up and nothing else, maybe people could survive or maybe people could get through this. But no, every single thing, the mandatory items, food, shelter, transportation is skyrocketing. And look what some families are having to struggle with now. Look how insane this is. US rents hit near record as parts of New York City saw past $4,000 a month in August. Who in their right mind would pay $4,000 for a one-bedroom apartment? I certainly wouldn't. But people say, look, you got to go to New York because that's where all the money is. You could make six figures. Well, yeah, but half of your money is going on rent. So even if you're making six figures, you could probably go somewhere else that's cheaper, make $60,000, for example, and maybe have more disposable income because the cost of living is cheaper. But it's not just this. American drivers are going deeper into debt as inflation pushes car loans to record highs. This is what I was talking about earlier. Used cars have gone up 40 or 50%. prices are going up so much. And I don't know if you've been to service your car recently or had to get new parts for your car, but servicing costs are going up through the roof. New car parts are going up through the roof. Just simply to exist in a modern world right now is becoming absolutely unbearable. The costs are getting higher and higher and higher. And unfortunately, people, it's only going to get worse. And unfortunately, what I've been trying to warn people, and what many other people have been trying to warn people, is you want to try to prepare now by buying some extra food, buying some essential items that you may need, because there's going to be shortages coming. And many people laughed and said, there's no shortages coming. Everything will be fine. There's no inflation coming. There's nothing to worry about. And they just call the people fools. Well, now for these people, it is too late for them. They are saying, look, I want to prepare now, but I can't prepare now. I can't go buy extra groceries. It's too expensive. I can't go and buy these emergency items. They're too expensive. It's too late now. I just got to try and get through day to day and week to week. And this is why I try to warn people about these crises ahead of time so they have time to prepare. But unfortunately for many, it is already too late. So I know what you're thinking, well, okay, what does all this data, all these charts, all this economic jargon mean for you in simple terms? What this means, people, this cost of living crisis, it's only going to get worse. We're going to see more and more shortages. If you can, I'd want to find ways to prepare for winter now. Even like some people in Germany, they're trying to prepare by buying firewood. If you have a fireplace, you may want to start stocking up on firewood ahead of winter, because I expect as gas prices in the US skyrocket during winter, many people will start to flow to get firewood, but it'll be too late for them. Hopefully, if you can prepare a couple of months earlier, maybe you can get some firewood cheaper. Again, if you do have some disposable income, store up on those essential items. Try to get some extra food, because things are only going to get more and more expensive. And if you're trying to get ahead, you're going to need to start some kind of side hustle, because the cost of living is only going to get worse. If you're going to want to prepare, but your full-time income isn't enough, well, the cold hard truth is you're either going to have to get a better job, get a promotion, or start a side hustle. A great side hustle that I enjoy is YouTube. It costs nothing. If you've got a smartphone, you can start, and it's something I'm passionate about, and you can make a bit of extra money to fuel your preparations. But everyone, what do you think? Let me know. Now, for all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.